So the other night, Ross had mentioned we don't have a money problem. We have an asset problem. Did everybody here understand what he was getting at? And if you don't, just say no. I don't understand that. That was part of it, but and I hope I'm characterizing it the right way. We didn't have we don't have the assets to do all the programming that we want to do. We've got basically Mike and Molly helping out with children's and Sue Johnson. We're down to the bare minimum to the point where these people are running ragged. Now, because of the number of people attending and giving on a regular basis, yes, we do have some financial problems, okay? So I think what we need to do is have a little bit of a discussion about that right now. And I'm asking Parnell to correct me on the numbers here. But in terms of non-designated funds, it's roughly in the neighborhood of 9,000. Is that correct? Am I wrong on that or right? Okay, we have money in the bank. How much do we have gross? Forget about the designated stuff. Okay, so 47,200. A portion of that, and this is the part I don't know, is designated giving, meaning it's not supposed to go to pay the normal operating expenses of the building, including salary. Am I correct on that? So do you know how much we have in non-designated money where we can pay the salaries and pay the finances and stuff like that? Or pay the expenses, excuse me. Just roughly. Okay, so it's higher than I thought. Okay, so that's what I was getting at. That was the 9,000 figure that I was getting at. The last couple months we've had. Go ahead. Yes, go ahead. Okay, so I'm going to repeat that. $42,000 of expenses per month. Okay, per 42,000. So if you per month. So if you just do the numbers in your head, with no more money coming in, and by the way, money is coming in every week, okay? But let's pretend that for some reason nobody gave anymore. And this is one of the things, by the way, the board has been staying up at night worrying about because of what we've announced, okay? So if giving goes way down, we're looking at 1-2 months, okay? That's what we're saying. That that's what we're saying. Well, so to that point, we are thinking about. I don't know if Ross talked to you about this, but we're thinking about going to the people who've given designated gifts to particular funds and asking them if we can use them for non-designated funds. Does that make sense? Like if you gave to the roof fund, well, that's a bad example because that gets paid out right away. But if you gave to Christmas Hope, that's a good example. Or caregiver's purse. We would go to those people and say, we're running short. We need to pay the pastor. We need to pay our other employees. Would you mind if we took that gift of $500 that you gave towards that particular item and we moved it to general fund? Am I characterizing that the right way, Parnell? So that's one thing. But then that's a very, very temporary solution. It's not even really a solution, but that's just something that could happen accounting-wise. I've heard people say, well, maybe I should go out and play the lottery. If I win the lottery, that's 1.2 billion. Of course, after tax is only like 600,000 or whatever the number is. 600 million. Excuse me, 600 million. I got my millions and billions mixed up, just like all the politicians do. But that's not that, folks. I don't want you to go out and get a lottery ticket just for that purpose. That's a that's not even a solution. It helps with the money, yes, but it doesn't help with the people. I don't know if you guys caught it, but they have, what is it, 7 or 8 pastoral type positions at each camp. I don't want to overstate it. Staff, 7 to 8 staff at each location. Okay.
From Tuesday night, they have 400 staff.
There you go.
9,000 volunteers.
So we need. Ross said assets. I'm going to call it people. We need people. Money could help. If somebody gifted us $1 billion, that's fine. But where are we going to get the people to do the ministry? I just want you to, I want that to sink in for a minute. So that's what Ross is getting at. Those are the assets we don't have. When he says assets, I don't want you to be thinking of dollar solutions. And Mike, I want you to add to that. Go ahead.
Let me give one concrete example. On Wednesday night, last night, we had 55 kids. Now, we have Wednesday night, we have the youth group, and then we have the children's ministry up through 5th grade. I'm talking about the kindergarten through 5th grade. We had 55, 57, somewhere right in there, kids there last night. Some of them come, eat dinner, they finish, and then they come upstairs to play before the program gets started. I'm going to get out of this cord right here before I strangle myself. Others are still eating dinner. That in between time, we have enough kids that they were in 3 rooms last night because they still need to be kind of separated by grade. We had one supervisor on that upper floor to try and cover 3 rooms of children who were playing creatively and not misbehaving, but just you need an adult in the room. We don't have, and as I look around the church, we just don't have the bodies. Everybody who can volunteer is volunteering in one way or another. And I'm using that for all the levels. That means we're just short on people. And I saw your body reaction where we need at least 3 and ideally 4 to have one to circulate and help out on the others. We've got one up there.
And we don't have backups for sickness either.
Yeah, that's assuming everybody's well.
Well, and when Sue's
Yeah. Sunday morning we have just enough. But that's because my dear wife Molly has grabbed hold of my arm and said a bit, said, "Would you, Mr. College Prof, would you teach the 5th graders?" I have no experience with 5th graders. It's been a big shift. They are a great bunch of kids and have made it work well. And it's been a lot of fun with them. But that's taking somebody who can, but I don't have the training, I don't have the skill. We didn't have children of our own, so I've never lived with a 5th grader to have a clue in that sense, to understand them. Do you know what I mean? And I'm doing it because there's nobody else there. It's working with this group because they're a really sharp bunch and they all read really well. And I can work with that. But a more challenging bunch, I don't have the skills. We're just short of people.
It's good to know that a college professor is getting on-the-job training with 5th graders. Anyways, having said all that, that's my sermon for this morning. Are there areas that are questions that you have that are specific to the board? I think I mentioned this, but we are in the process of gathering I guess I call it a negotiating committee. At this point in time, it looks like it's going to be 3 board members and 2 non-board members. And we've just started, in fact, it was just Ross, myself, and a couple others started talking about that. So that's but we need to move fast. We need to move fast, especially with all the concerns that I see that you have. And we've thought of most of those, but I thank you for all your questions that you've had the last few days, and even comments, even if they're not questions, but just comments. Been taking notes, and we'll try to address those as best we can. Are there other questions that are for the board? Go ahead, Steve. I'll repeat it. Go ahead.
On Tuesday, you said that this is not a gift. I mean, we have assets. We have material assets. We don't
Right.
have human and
Right.
maybe immediate, cash liquidity.
Correct.
He said it was not a gift of all of this
Correct.
multi-million physical asset
Correct.
to them, but it's a sale below market value.
Definitely.
Is this one of those $1 deals just to make it technically
Yeah,
a sale?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't. Dan, do you even know the specifics of what happened at Spring Lake Park in terms of what he's getting at? Is you sell your car to your brother for $1 or something like that?
That one was a gift, and because it was a gift, there's some things legally that are better to be it be a sale. anything that had happened at one place can be then other place can be brought into the situation and lawsuits and that kind of stuff. And so a sale is different. That ends all of that kind of thing. And so it would be a zero sum sale, I think, is how it would be.
This is my understanding. I don't know yet. They're talking about taking on costs if we are running up a negative balance between now and whatever takeover time would be. Back up, Brad, you're jumping in. Okay. I'm going to call it X day for lack of a better term. We will probably still have 200 and whatever thousand, 250 in the building loan from Converge, which has now become Wesleyan. We will have that debt. We'll have whatever monthly stuff. We will theoretically have paid everything that we can pay, and there will be a dollar amount that is owed out there. Most of it will be the building debt. On X day, they will be probably, it's going to work out that they're going to be buying us for the value of our liabilities to pay off all of our liabilities, and then plus the ceremonial dollar. That's my current understanding. This could change completely as we get closer and as we understand these things.
So I could be wrong in this, but I also thought I heard Gary say something about all. Maybe I'm adding to this, and if I am, I apologize. But let's say they're going to put, I don't know, $2 million into this building facility. Would that be part of the purchase price? Is that your understanding or not? Okay, so that would be that because that would be after the transaction. Okay, so we are talking, or he's right then. Let's say it's $250,001.
I didn't want to be right.
You usually are. Anyways, so it may in your mind look like a $1 transaction, but they're basically taking on all the liability.
Well, even if it's a $250, paying our debt and so on, on a $8-10 million property, it sounds like a gift.
Yeah, you can call it a gift then. Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, what else would we do? Let's look at the other end of that. And maybe I'm reading too much into your question, Steve, but let's say we go ahead and sell this for $10 million. What are we going to do then? What? To who? Okay, what are we doing with the money?
I don't know, I'm just saying.
We literally fit in here now if we wanted to.
We haven't been able to make this work for the last how many years?
I know.
Right.
Selling the
So-
property and trying to start over isn't going to bring people that we can't get now in a building where we could work.
So you're talking about going to another location, or not?
She's talking about selling the building, so then what?
I just threw that out.
So if we're concerned, okay, I'll just say this and I'll let Mike go. If we're concerned about getting fair market value for this building, I think we're looking at it completely backwards. I'm looking at this transaction, for lack of a better word, to get resources, to get people, to get assets in the door, and I want that sanctuary filled. I want 250 to 300 people in there for 4 services over a weekend. We can't get 250 in there for 1 service right now. That's where my heart lies. If we start getting into the money thing, I think we're doing it all wrong. And that's my sermon.
I happen to know one example at second hand where they did sell the building. It was Oak Park Heights, I think they call it, over by the Mississippi River just south of 694. They sold their property to Presbyterian Homes, who is putting up a retirement facility there that will include space that the church can utilize once the building is up. Now that's a long time building a whole thing up, right? I know they seem to sprout like mushrooms, and there's one at the corner of Jay and Hodgson that just seems to be going like crazy right there. But that congregation has continued to meet in the meantime, and it's dwindled by about half. And one of their biggest challenges they're dealing with is what do we do with the $1.8 million they got from their sale? It's causing them more grief than they ever thought it would be. Of how you respond, and they're just torn over what's the best way to dispose of that. And in the meantime, as they're waiting for the building to go up where they would have a new worship area, it's going to be a nice race to see how many folks in that original group are still alive when the building is ready to be occupied. So there's one example where they did sell it at market price. And it's not really, they have different problems. They have very different problems now. But I don't think they're any less than they were before.
Bonnie's got a mic right behind you.
Not to mention the fact that you're not going to get a sale on the building in 2 months. The market is slow,
yeah.
and it's even slower.
So we have a real
commercial.
estate guru on the board here, and what she's basically saying is even if we wanted to go that route, it would probably happen we'd accumulate more debt. Basically, is what you're saying. So, all right. Question. Yeah, go ahead.
Dissolve a 501c3.
Yep.
Those assets then have to be given to another 501c3. So we're not talking about splitting this among the congregants.
No, I know. We know that. Yeah, I know that.
We're also not. I think we're still a sub S.
We're not a 10.
Okay.
We legally have to be a 501c3 in order for when people give to our organization, they get a tax deduction for it. We can't be a subchapter S.
Our corporate form is.
Well, that's for like the checking account and stuff like that.
Well, I can think of a few congregations and ministries that could probably use some leftover cash if they're 501c3s.
Okay, so what you're talking about is, let's say we go down the route of selling the property, we get all this money, and then we divide it among other organizations that we care about. Or
Yes, but I'm thinking we still go with Eagle Brook, but they're giving us more than $1 plus
oh, I see what you're saying.
$2.50.
Okay, well, actually that point kind of intrigues me a little bit, because let's say I'm just gonna make up a number. Let's say they give us 1.2 million, and that's enough to take care of the debt and everything, and then we still got money left over. And say, tell you what, we're not going to be able to, and by the way, this is off the top of my head, as you can tell, we're not going to be able to fund missionaries for another year. Maybe we give some to the missionaries that we're currently sponsoring. Is that what you're getting at, Steve?
Yeah, the ministries that we would really like to continue,
Okay.
the missions, the other congregations.
That certainly could be. I'm not going to say no to that. I think that could be certainly part of the negotiating process. I don't know the legal aspects of that, but that's intriguing to me, I have to admit.
And could be addressed in the negotiations.
Yeah,
possibly.
and maybe they've done something like that before or not. I don't know. Ron, did you have a question?
Yeah. I want to know, is it even feasible for us, let's just say, we dissolve at the first of the year? Is it feasible for us to come together as a group, redo our budget, say we don't have a full-time preacher, say we have some volunteering or something like that? We don't have 8 people on the staff. We do away with that, and we get a new budget, and we make that budget. Say right now, budget might be, I have no idea, might be $25,000 a month. Say we cut it down to maybe 10. Is it feasible?
I'd have to say no, but Mike, why don't you go ahead? I'm going to gather my thoughts here.
Our current budget is $42,000 a month. All right. What I don't think any of us know off the top of our head is what the costs of heating the building even to 55 or during the winter, for example. There's a certain amount that we can't go below just to keep the building functioning. All right.
That's between $10,000 and $12,000 a month, Mike.
All right. So it takes that much and then any ministry expenses built on top of that to give some idea of what we're talking about. So, I think one thing that's going to happen if we were to vote, I think one thing we'll be doing in January is redrawing our budget on for however many months we're looking at between them and the process to reduce the cash flow needs and so on. So we'll be reducing expenses one way or another. Yeah.
Go ahead, Bonnie.
In the other meeting, there was concern about severance pay for staff, and not just Ben, but all staff. And the budget reduction thing, that kind of sounds like, okay, we end the ministry, the professional ministers here right now today. That puts Ben in a very vulnerable position. He's got 4 kids. They're living in the cottage.
Mm-hmm.
So there's, a lot of ramifications that I think as believers we need to also be thinking in terms of all those moving balls.
Yeah, I had a private meeting with Ben on that, and we did talk about that. We don't have an answer for him right now, but that's something that the board will have to decide at a board meeting.
That's part of what we need to negotiate in that agreement.
Exactly.
And one thing, when the time comes for a vote, the board will bring a motion to the church. I suspect it may be the longest motion you've ever seen at a meeting. Because we'll basically be
Might take a half hour to read it.
separation agreement. So that you'll have some idea of what you're voting about. We'll have some things specified in terms of does the pastor have to move out immediately or not, and so on. We will have some of those in there, and we'll answer everything we can in the motion. So you'll have a better idea of what you're saying yes or no to. And either way, there will be change. If we say yes, there will be change. If we say no, there's going to be change. But we'll have a longest motion I think you will have ever seen in a meeting when we finally get to that point. That will help us answer and be able to think more clearly about what are the implications of this. Some of the kind of things you were getting at, Steve. It'll give us more. We'll have some of those answered because we'll have a negotiated agreement by then.
Regarding this last topic in terms of severance and things like that to take care of the employees, that I would suspect would definitely be known at a vote. We won't ask you to vote on something like that without knowing those questions or those answers.
At the board, we've talked about this a little bit, restarting somewhere else. I personally have no feeling of a call towards doing that at all. The thought of trying to rent a room down at Edgerton School or finding an empty storefront somewhere and starting over again just doesn't appeal to me at all. The reason why I say that is that one of Bonnie's elephants that have been in this room for 20 years is we have an embedded debate between classic and contemporary that we have never been able to bridge. And I view it personally as one of our fatal flaws. I think it's one of the reasons why we are in this position. This is my personal opinion. This is not a board opinion. This is my personal opinion. I don't want to pass that flaw onto some new startup school or storefront somewhere. Uh, yeah, it would, Steve. It would. That would go away too. And so seeking money for the building to help us to go start somewhere else. Uh, I think we need to be viewing this much more as this is our legacy. And we are going to be passing on our legacy to a group that, as Russ said the other night, does church very well for the people that go there and attend. I sit out in the parking lot about 2 Sundays a month watching over your catalytic converters. Since the board took on catalytic converter watch, we've lost one. I think that was on Easter. I sit there and the entire south lot is empty. A few of the cars come in for the Thai church towards the middle of our service, but I'm sitting down there under the tree watching over the catalytic converters, and the south lot is absolutely empty. After this is all said and done in the fall of 2023, that south lot is not going to be empty. The fire marshal gives us 525 seats in the sanctuary. Every Sunday that it appears to me that every Sunday that we're here, there are 425 or more empty seats in that sanctuary. When this is all over, there won't be 425 empty seats in that sanctuary. We have done everything that we know amongst ourselves to change that. And it didn't work. Linus sits out in the pumpkin patch on peanuts. And he is the most sincere pumpkin patch. And he's waiting for the great pumpkin to come on Halloween to his pumpkin patch. We have been sincere. We've been sitting in our pumpkin patch waiting for the 50 families to come back. And they aren't coming. No matter how sincere we are, they're not coming. I don't know why. We're going to write a book about this someday if somebody wants to. But they're not coming. We have this legacy. We will have it once. I don't expect to ever be in a position again to be able to hand over this or anything like it to a successor. We have gone about it. We have tried to find what is the best successor, the person that's going to take our legacy and move it forward. I believe that is Eagle Brook.
Ditto. I don't know what else to say to that. I will entertain any more comments or questions that people have. I guess Bonnie's on to talk.
I guess I'm going to repeat what Ross said at the Tuesday night meeting. the board has had this, well, years, but even more seriously, 14 months that we've really been crying, struggling over. One board member said if I had had to vote this way a year ago, I would have voted no. But God has changed my heart, and I realize this is God's building, and I want God's work to continue here. And, that's a hard, it's not like we just said, oh, we're in trouble, let's go find somebody to buy the church. This has been a sleepless night decision for all the board members, but I would say, with the exception maybe one, who's young and energetic, it's been unanimous. So it's it's something we've struggled over. And you guys just have had what, 2 weeks? I mean, not even that really. So it's we've tried to let you know as soon in the process as we had something concrete that we could present. And
All right. I think that gives you insight to our board. Any other comments? I really do want it to be. Okay, Ron.
I won't throw much wrench into that.
I can't reach him.
Why didn't the board come to us 6 months ago and let us know? Right now, I have my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
and it's pretty negative. But after 6 months, I may say, go. But why?
Yeah, that's a fair question. I don't know if I should tell you this, but it's been on my mind for 10 years. And I've been. Hang on, I do want to get to his question. If we were to bring that up 6 months ago, the timing you got to trust me on this, Ron. The timing would not have been right. I think we could have made so many mistakes. I will say this, even though the board's been thinking about it for 14 months, and by the way, I might as well share this. We did take a vote 14 months ago, and it was one-sided to just try and make this work for another. Well, actually, at that time there was no end point. We were going to go forward, make changes. We did some stuff with the stage and music and stuff like that, and we got negative feedback right away as soon as we started changing music, by the way. And so what Brad said about music is right on. So here, where I'm going with all this is, as soon as the board was 100% behind, well, 90-some% behind this decision is when you found out. You found out within a week. 6 months ago, the board wasn't ready. There's no way I would have brought this up to you, Ron, 6 months ago, because that would have split the board in half.
Eagle Brook only decided a week ago Tuesday.
That's a good point. This is, you got to trust us. This is as soon as we could have let you know.
We couldn't tell them that Eagle Brook was coming when Eagle Brook didn't know the option existed.
Well, not all of Eagle Brook's board. Now, we're getting into some of the stuff behind the scenes, and I don't know if I really want to go much more into that. It's not edifying. It's not helpful. And I know there's some former board members in here I hope probably agree with me on that. I'm sorry, I got emotional on that. Go ahead.
Let me say something.
Okay.
I am not negative.
No, you're not. I know.
No
It just
answer.
it just would not have worked. So you got to trust me on this one. It would not have worked 6 months ago. I'll share this with you. I tried forcing it 14 months ago, and I almost quit the board because nobody agreed with. Well, one, maybe two agreed with me, and I was sitting with Dan and Pastor in tears, and then we actually had a plan for me to exit the board, and then for whatever reason I stayed on. All right? Brutally honest, transparent. Who was asking about transparency earlier? All right. Anything else?
Yeah, Dottie is not here, so I get
Sure.
talk.
Oh.
If she was here, I would
All right, Dottie, go ahead.
time.
No, you're doing fine. I love your brother. I really do. You just got to trust me on this one. I think you got the insight now. So, Deb, you want to talk? Okay. My lovely wife.
I'm just, this isn't a sudden decision. It's not something that's all of a sudden has happened. The church has been declining for years. You can't say that this is something that's new or unexpected that just came out of the blue. Their numbers have been going down significantly for years, and the numbers of volunteers to help with the programs have been going down. There's not been enough people. We've tried rearranging the programs numerous times over the last number of years to be able to have enough people to work the programs. It's not a new thing. It's been happening over years. But now is the time that the decisions have to be made what's going to happen. And we can vote yes and have a say in what's happening with our church. We can have some negotiations about the programs that we love and hope for them to be able to continue in some form. They may not be the same as they are now. Or we can say no and the church will die. We'll hand the keys over to Converge and they can do whatever they want with it. They can turn around and say, here you go, Eagle Brook. It's yours. Take it. You start from scratch. Basically. They could. They can do whatever they want with it, basically, once. Or they could go with somebody else. If we want to have a say in what happens to our church, now is the time to make that decision. And that say is to give it to Eagle Brook so that the church can continue and flourish and gain and grow. We're not making it grow. We've tried everything we could think of over the last number of years to try to make the church grow. And it's not growing. It's dying. And I hate to say that. I have as much history in this church as everybody else. I got 75 years of family history in this church. And I don't want it to die either. But I'd rather see it handed over to somebody else who can make it grow and continue. And as Brad has said, this is our legacy to pass on. Let's pass it on the best way we can to another church, part of our conference, who is making things work. We're not making them work. Let's hand it over to somebody who can and have some say in how that works versus handing it over with no say at all. It's hard. I don't like to see this happen. And when we all started talking about this, I didn't want it to be Eagle Brook either. I don't agree with everything, all of their programming either. But they're the ones who are making things work. We're not, so we need to do something. And I agree that at this point, Eagle Brook is the best option for us to make things work.
All right, the Matthews are in emotional wreck right now. I don't want to. Sure.
Revelation 14:13. Blessed are the dead in the Lord. Blessed are the dead in the Lord, because their works will follow them. Let go. Let go. Pull the young life support out. Let us die in peace. Let this new congregation, this new blood, young blood, that has the energy and the strength to take over. Let the new blood take over. Let them do the work now. We did our work.
I think I want to end it there. I hope you understand. Dan, I'm going to ask you to pray, or if you have some comments first, and if you'd like to close in prayer, I'd love that.
It's hard stuff. It's hard stuff, and I appreciate each one of you and the prayers and comments. I've talked to 25 people in the last 4 or 5 days here, and prayed and heard lots of tears and comments, and I just think you're really brave to be meeting like this, and the board has really lost lots of, have cried and lots of sleep lost, and didn't want to have to do this, bring this to the congregation. And so I'm impressed. This is my third time around here. 2013, first time for a year, 2019 for a year, and now again as ministry consultant, but have been here the whole time. Been running, been driving a bus for all these years. 68 years old. I'm in there running a class last night. I start the bus at 3 o'clock and leave my house at 3 o'clock, and I get home at 10 o'clock on Wednesdays. And we have an hour and a half to 2 hour pickup, and an hour and a half to two hours to get them home. Get the last ones home about 9 o'clock. And we're running vans and 2 vans in addition to that. My whole family doing it along with several other people and all the others that are helping from here. So Mike mentioned the 55 of the children. We have the same number of youth here last night, and so with very few helpers, and so when I hear of losing all of that, I have a personal investment as well. I also was on staff with Eagle Brook for 7 years. They kept me on staff to take care of their seniors over at Spring Lake Park because I was the interim pastor when that took place and led them through. I just actually did the negotiating, so I've got history with them. Different group, but different people then. But I know these folks as well, and I still consult over there too with their staff, along with what I do here. And so, so I know that it's hard, but I also know that this is a group of folks that are going to take seriously what we're putting before. But they also have what they do well, and what we need to figure out, I think, is that if we can let go and let them do what they do well here, and have that be our legacy, wow! I mean, that's it's just fantastic. And then this thing of what we've really anchored and our children's ministry to our community at Lifepoint, because I'm just Lifepoint anchored is just because the liability wise, I was told by my insurance guy, get the bus out of your name, put it in an LLC. And then we got the 501c with it just for fun. But that's the only reason we did that. It's just Lifepoint stuff. But we did that for liability purposes. We have our own liability plus Lifepoint's liability for that ministry. But it's a separate thing from Lifepoint, actually, because it's a refugee ministry. It isn't what we structurally do here. We've weaved it into Sunday school now, and that's really cool. But it'd be the same thing I'm trying to negotiate with them now, is that we can do that with our ministries, that it would be through the mindset of small groups. All of us that are already doing these ministries. Now, whether we can do it here is the harder negotiation piece, the space here. Think about all of our churches, too, that I care about. I'm big on international ministries here. If we were totally full, running 4 services ourselves, I doubt that we would be renting out to international ministries. But we happen to be, because we're not full, right? So we've done a fantastic job of using this space with this international ministry. But we tried to make it one. That was about a year. Ben and I worked on that, and we tried to make that one. We've tried to make several other congregations come in and be one. I've talked with numerous people in other denominations as well as our own denomination, and national people as well as right around here, figuring out is there anyone that could get in here. I've got a lot of contacts out there. We've talked a lot in the last since I was here the first time. This idea was brought up in 2013 as well. Even Eagle Brook came up then. I was not going to mention that at all. I was too close. I was seen as the one that takes churches into Eagle Brook. That's not at all the case. I do my best to see if a church can revive itself. So I have talked enough, but I just wanted to give you a feel that I'm just as much a part of this as you, and want to negotiate something that would work, but also realize that our finances, we could be done before the end of the year easy if something doesn't turn around in terms of being able to pay staff. And so that's a reality, but God knows that, and God has allowed that, and we are at a point on our knees that we've never been before because of that, but it's not because it's just only a money thing. It's because God's got us right where he's got us. And so let's pray. Lord, I thank you that as we think about this together, that we've all got heavy investment here, and all of these folks way more than me, and yet I feel just like I'm just part of their family. And I just thank you, Lord, that for whatever reason this opportunity has come at a time right when we it's not just that we don't have other options, but it's you have allowed it to be where it just seems to be the option that just makes a lot of sense, and it's hard to see that you're not in it somehow. but that's something though that each of us have to kind of figure out. What is this moment? What is this moment? And how did it ever get to this moment? And how could it have potential like it has? And yet, how could it also be sensitive to where we've been? And how can it be merging where we can present programmings? Lord, since you've got us here, you'll figure that out as we let go and trust you. Give us your peace as we pray, as we fast, on what you would have us do, as we get the answers that we can. For it's in the name of Jesus we pray. Amen. Amen.
Thank you.